So if you can keep fighting fucking 50-something-year-olds
You don't think Tyson has a chance?
and making a living at it, I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against anybody. Mike's 58 years old. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I hate doing this because Mike gets mad at me every time I do this, but Mike shouldn't be fighting.
Dana White criticized the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, calling it absurd. A 58-year-old Tyson, retired for over a decade, faces a 28-year-old in his prime. White questioned why he should hold back on such a lopsided matchup, highlighting the stark age and experience difference.
I believe that he was making the money he says he's making. Showtime Boxing wouldn't have gone out of business, and Showtime would have made sure they kept paying him.
Right.
But he's doing it. You know, what do I think of the Mike Tyson fight?
Yes.
Tyson's 58 years old. You know what I mean? Jake fought a guy who was his age and who was also considered a boxer, and he lost.
UFC boss Dana White didn't hold back on Jake Paul, slamming his usual strategy of handpicking older, retired athletes to create the illusion of a legitimate fight. White called out Paul's track record, branding these matches as circus acts rather than real competition. He didn't stop at criticizing the fighters. He tore into the entire gimmick, labeling it a blatant cash grab disguised as a fight. According to White, this so-called legendary matchup is nothing more than smoke and mirrors, and he's exposing it for what it truly is.
Under any circumstances, a fucking almost 60-year-old man shouldn't be fighting a 27-year-old guy under any circumstances, even if it's Mike Tyson. So it's just this.
Dana White blasted the absurd matchup of a 58-year-old legend against a 28-year-old YouTuber turned boxer known for cherry-picking easy wins. His disbelief was unmistakable, practically jumping off the screen with every word.
God, no. When this fight happens, Tyson will be 58 years.
I'm worried about him.
Under any circumstances.
Setting aside his status as a fighting legend, Mike Tyson is nearly 60, with decades of wear and tear on his body. Jake Paul's idea of advancing his career shouldn't involve pulling icons out of retirement for a few Instagram-worthy punches. Dana White didn't hold back, highlighting Paul's well-known strategy, avoiding opponents who pose a real challenge. White called out the obvious truth many hesitate to say: Jake Paul deliberately targets retired athletes, aging fighters, or those far past their prime. It's less about competition and more about crafting easy wins, a tactic Dana openly criticized as a disservice to boxing.
And he was getting this like rep, like, oh, they're protecting their golden goose, whatever. And I remember, it's so funny, I remember the Jan fight. I was like, oh, they're done with him. They're gonna feed him to Jan. They don't think he's got it.
Dana White slammed Jake Paul's antics as blatant clout chasing, comparing his opponent list, Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, and now Mike Tyson, to a retirement home roll call. It's clear Paul isn't proving himself as a real boxer.
If you are the world champion, there's no questioning who the best is, because you've already run through, the baddest people in the world in your weight class.
And now I understand why you get annoyed by media, because I remember when Sugar Sean was coming up, and he was getting that there was this narrative that like he was being protected.
Dana didn't hold back, taking a shot at the Showtime boxing situation and throwing in a sharp jab about Jake Paul's loss to Tommy Fury for good measure.
Tyson knocks out.
My biggest problem with the Jake Paul thing is, and how this plays out, is when he actually fought somebody who was a boxer, who had the same type of record he has, who was his age,
Tommy,
and who was his size, lost.
Yeah.
When Jake faces someone his age and skill level, he loses. A point Dana didn't let slide. He emphasized how Jake's entire act falls apart when the playing field is truly level.
These guys, Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people, because everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out.
Right.
They're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see
Dana White's perspective cuts through the fluff, getting straight to the heart of the matter. This fight was never about respecting the sport or delivering a legitimate contest for fans. It was simply a cash grab, pure and simple. Tyson's legendary name brought the legacy, while Jake brought the social media hype, and together they turned the boxing ring into a stage for a spectacle that barely resembled the sport. Dana wasn't about to let it go without calling out every mismatched, money-grabbing, credibility-shredding aspect of it. After hearing his take, it's hard not to agree with him. Now, let's talk about the actual fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. A spectacle that left many with mixed feelings. Despite the judges scoring the bout 80-72, 79-73, and 79-73, in 79-73, and 79-79-73, in 79-78. Those scores don't lie. Jake Paul dominated the fight. He landed an impressive 171 punches, while Tyson could only manage 87. That's a massive gap, and when you break down the numbers, it's clear who controlled the pace throughout the bout. The outcome wasn't in question.
I have love for Jake too. I don't
Wait,
know. I don't know when a fight's
Paul's
happening. I
fights
really
are all
don't.
the same. He fights older people that are smaller. It's all the same shit. And listen, the kid's doing his thing, but he lies about all this stuff.
The problem with this fight wasn't just that Tyson was outboxed by someone younger and faster. It's the fact that Tyson, nearly 60 years old, was up against a fighter who wasn't just a decade younger, but had spent years cherry-picking easy opponents. Tyson struggled throughout the fight. He landed fewer punches, his stamina was clearly a weakness, and his body simply wasn't built for a matchup like this. Yet, despite all the disadvantages, Tyson hung in there. That's the only thing you can truly credit him for. He didn't quit. However, the fallout from this fight is far from pretty. Many are now questioning whether Tyson's legacy has been tarnished. And honestly, it's understandable. Tyson is one of the most iconic figures in boxing history, and his career deserved to end on his own terms, not in a bizarre, money-driven spectacle. For fans who grew up watching him reign in the ring, seeing Tyson in such a state is tough to stomach, and it's hard to shake off the feeling that his legacy has been compromised.
When Mike gets forward, lands a beautiful jab that rocks Jake, and I think immediately that made Jake realize that he couldn't be reckless against him. But then as time went on, he realized that that threat was not as present as he might have thought.
Fans want to remember the prime Tyson, the one who knocked out opponents with devastating power, not the version struggling to keep up with a younger man. It's hard to accept, especially for longtime boxing enthusiasts who see this fight as nothing more than a cash grab. Honestly, it feels like a slap in the face to the rich history of the sport.
If I brought up fucking Jake Paul,
Yeah.
pretty much everybody in the room and the other room wants to see Jake Paul get knocked out. So you're hoping, you got the reason why you hope Tyson would pull this off. Or
Did you help set that up? Because I know you're close with Tyson.
got
The
it.
audience's reactions were all over the place. Some were entertained, others outraged, but almost everyone had an opinion. On one side, there were those who tuned in for the drama. They came to see Jake Paul, and to them, that was all the fight was about. But on the other hand, there were fans disgusted by what they witnessed. These were the people who felt the fight disrespected the sport. They didn't tune in for drama. They came for a real contest, and what they got was far from that. To them, Tyson's involvement in this fight felt like a tragic fall from grace, while Jake Paul appeared nothing more than an opportunistic celebrity, looking to bolster his ego and bank account. Was it really worth risking Tyson's health for the sake of a spectacle? Absolutely not. This fight wasn't about sportsmanship, skill, or legacy. It was all about spectacle, and that's what made it a shame.
Rules are 8 2-minute rounds, not 3-minute rounds, 2-minute rounds, and 14-ounce gloves, not 10-ounce gloves. Normally pro fights are 10-ounce gloves, and no headgear, which is normal for, a pro fight. Here's my question. How do you call it a professional fight if the rules you're using are not professional rules?
Tyson's career deserves far more respect than being used as a pawn in a circus act. Let's be honest. Jake Paul didn't need to fight a legend to make a name for himself. He could have faced someone his own age, still active in the sport, and proven himself.
These guys, Jake needs Tyson and needs all these other people, because everybody's going to tune in to hope that Mike Tyson knocks him out.
Right.
They're not tuning in because they think Jake Paul's a great fighter and they want to see him.
Instead of facing a real challenge, Jake Paul took the easy route by targeting a man clearly past his prime and struggling with health issues. That's not bravery, it's exploitation. Tyson's name carries weight, and Paul knew that using him in this fight would generate the buzz and attention he couldn't get from fighting a real competitor. Meanwhile, Dana White has been calling Paul a novelty act for years, and honestly, it's hard to disagree with him. White's criticism of Paul's approach to boxing seems well earned.
I'm surprised that Jake Paul is doing this. He's on the way to building a legitimate boxing career, regardless of what anyone else thinks. He's having real fights. To now step down to do this kind of exhibition style fight against 50-something-year-old man. I just don't get the motivation from Jake's perspective.
Jake Paul's entire career has relied on picking easy fights, and his match with Tyson was just the latest example.
From Jake's perspective.
Well, I do. Jake, part of it is what it's been from the beginning. He's been obviously very upfront about it. He's in the money-making business. That's,
I don't think he needs the money. How much money do you need? He said makes like tens of millions a year.
Is there ever enough money, really? You've been in the finance.
For me, there is.
You are in the financial business before you got into this.
There's a level where you don't need any more, and it's not very much.
No, I agree. There are things more important than just money.
Jake Paul isn't out there fighting the best. He's cherry-picking opponents he knows he can beat. When he faces someone who presents a real challenge, he struggles. Dana White is right to call Paul out for this. If Paul truly wants to be taken seriously as a boxer, he needs to step up and face someone who can actually test his skills. The aftermath of the Tyson versus Paul fight raises serious concerns about the future of boxing. Will more legends be drawn into this influencer boxing circus? Fighters and promoters are already questioning the integrity of the sport, while streaming platforms like Netflix fuel the spectacle rather than preserve the tradition of boxing. For boxing to regain its credibility, it needs to return to its roots and focus on real competition, not gimmicks. If the sport doesn't course correct soon, it risks losing its respect and authenticity, favoring quick profits and viral moments that tarnish the legacies of both fighters and boxing itself.